Hey, it looks like we are live. Looks like we are live. You know what I just discovered? A couple things that I just discovered as we're waiting for everybody to get notified that we're going live. And while I am checking on my Facebook to make sure y'all can hear me, okay, I discovered today, quite by accident, that um, I have additional seats in my StreamYard plan. I got the email that says we're going to upgrade you to our newest plan that includes all the stuff you love already, and we're going to double your price. I did get that email, but I was so mad at that email I didn't bother to check out what the new deal was. I figured I'd deal with it down the road. Well, today I discovered that I was almost out of storage. And when I went to go fix that one, no, I wasn't almost out of storage. I was out of storage. They were like, we are not giving you any more space to record any more stuff till you free up some space or pay us some more money. And, you know, as a frugal financial planner, you might think I'm just not going to want to pay money, but I'll pay money if it's a good service. But StreamYard done just doubled their prices on everybody. So I'm not trying to pay more. In fact, I'm trying to figure out how to take this to open broadcast and maybe not have to pay anything, right? But the thought occurred to me as I was getting ready to start today because I really wanted to be on time and I didn't want, we've been pushing the because of family and whatever, we've pushed things back and back. And my son and I were in that production last year and things just didn't work out the way that we wanted to get this on time. So we're trying to rein that back in. And then there's a part of me was like, just pay it. Just pay the $5 a month. But here's the reason why I didn't pay the $5 a month. It's not because I'm cheap. And it's not because I want to stick it to StreamYard. I'm not really that upset at StreamYard, although I do feel like when you double your prices, you are taking advantage of your consumer base who's been with you since the beginning. But you know what? Companies are companies and they're doing what companies do. The real reason I didn't go ahead and just pay the extra for the extra storage is the same reason that when I go to places like Sam's Club or Walmart or the grocery store, if I only need to get one or two things that I can carry, I don't get a cart. Why don't I get a cart? Because I don't want to have extra things fall into the cart because I can be very impulsive when I see something I really want. And so what do? I just don't make room for extra things. Does that ever bite me in the behind? Sure it does. Because sometimes I get in there, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to put this on the list, but I need that. Oh yeah, I forgot to put that on the list, but I need that, right? And when it comes to buying extra storage, when it comes to buying more drives, I've got a million drives. Can I find anything on them? I've got a ton of storage. Have I done anything with the videos in there? And so one of the things that I find is that sometimes throwing money at a problem to solve it in the short term actually creates a longer problem long term. So I was like, no, I'm not going to just pay money and throw money at the way. What I'm going to do is be thoughtful about the fact that I've got 50 episodes that haven't been turned into podcasts over the last year. Some have, especially since I found out that if you don't keep your podcast updated, it falls off all those aggregate sites that help you find guests. Oh, y'all, yeah, I had to make sure that I got myself back together on that. But I still have quite a few episodes that are sitting in the queue waiting to be done. So when I did all that, hey there, nice to see you, Dennis. Nice to see you on. So when I did all that, then I discovered I actually have 4 seats available for team members to come help me. So guess what's going to be next on my interns training list? Yeah, we're going to be teaching her how to use StreamYard. I've got some other projects I need her to take care of first, but that's going to be one that could really help me, especially if her mom will let her do the broadcast from her home when I'm doing them here, because it would be so nice to have somebody to help manage the clicks and the comments and all the things. Okay, especially since I'm still trying to figure out where I'm supposed to be looking. Like I have done a video audit, and I keep still making videos that sometimes I feel like I'm not looking in the right place. I am trying my best to look at the audience. So I think with the new computer and the new setup we're building in the office, that'll help resolve some of that. But today I have some really juicy topics for you. I'm really excited about some of the questions that come in. It seems like we're not getting a whole lot of questions. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask you, if you've got a finance question, right now, without thinking about it, put your finance question in the comments. Just plop it in there. It doesn't have to be worded correctly. Ain't nobody gonna judge you. All right. They might be jealous of you because you're about to get this breakthrough that comes from getting your answer tonight. But just go ahead and put it in the comments so that then I can bring it up on the screen when I finish the 4 questions that I'll already have in the queue. Okay. The other thing I'm going to do is while you're doing that, I am going to scroll down here and I'm going to invite some people to come on stage. You don't have to come on stage to ask your question, but I would love it if you do. So I'm going to put the link to our StreamYard session today in the banner, and I'm going to go ahead and put the banner at the bottom. So the ways that you can ask a question, you can post it in the comments. You can go to the form at Ask JJC. We have a new Ladies of Wealth podcast page. There's actually an ask form there. I need to start saying that. ladiesofwealth.com/ask. And then you can ask your question. And on the side of every page at the new Ladies of Wealth website, it actually has a little voicemail button. So if you want to leave your question as a voicemail so that I can splice it into the podcast, oh, that's even better. You know, people really like the Q&A style of podcast. That's why I put the link out and when I invite people to come in. Now, once we had stopped doing the free conference call, it made it hard for people to call in, but we're going to figure out a way to patch that back in, especially when we do the recordings in the new studio, because the studio has the ability to patch in your phone calls. So that's actually pretty cool. It's finicky. And I haven't figured out the thing on make it work every single time. So that's what we're working on. And then we might just, do what we got to do. Anywho, let me go ahead and start with the questions that we have today. Let me pull up the first question. And it's about Airbnb arbitrage. Excuse me. Okay. I'm going to set my questions over here. So I may not see your comments in a timely manner because I'm setting my questions up over where the StreamYard would show me your comments. Okay. So if I don't get to your comments, that doesn't mean I'm ignoring you. I'm just going to finish my thought and then I'm going to check the comments and then I'm going to move on to the next thought. Okay. All right. So I saw this ad for a course on Airbnb arbitrage. They say it's free and makes $10,000 a month. Is it legit or is it a scam? Okay, I love this question because I love Airbnbs. Okay, so while I'm answering this question, I'm actually going to show y'all one of my favorite Airbnbs. I'm just going to share it and hopefully I've set it up where it won't actually play, so you should hear me talking and not the video. So let me make sure I've cut that down. So let's go ahead and play that. This is my favorite Airbnb that my husband and I and my kids have stayed at. And we love this Airbnb. And whenever we can stay back there with them, we try to stay back there with them. So if I could just get a thumbs up real quick that y'all can hear me and not the video. Actually, that's kind of making me dizzy. What? Anyway, this is one of my favorite Airbnbs. My husband and my family, we love staying in Airbnbs when we travel. Now, sometimes they're a bust. Like sometimes you get there and you realize, wow, this was a bust. This place is run down, and what they advertise as a full-size fridge is like one of those souped up campus fridges with a little freezer compartment. Sometimes, but this particular one in Colorado Springs, not far from the Air Force Academy, is absolutely one of our favorite Airbnb properties. So I'm a big fan of Airbnb. I've been staying in them ever since it first came out. And I was actually really afraid of it the first time I stayed in an Airbnb, but I was 9 months pregnant. My oldest and I had gone to a Pittsburgh Steelers game. I didn't have the strength. Okay. I didn't realize how difficult it was going to be to tailgate, go to a game, and then get back on the road pregnant because I had never done that before. And my last pregnancy, I had lots of energy. Well, this time it's a pregnancy in your 40s. And so so I was like, there's no way I'm going to make it home. And if you've ever driven between Pittsburgh, PA, and Springfield, Virginia, there's not a whole lot of places to stop. There's no like, it's like hills and countryside and stuff. There's no place for you to stop and really spend the night and not attract anything. Okay. It's really not it's really not conducive. Like how do I want to say, like if you're going up and down I-95, there's rest stops with security, there's hotels, and there's all kinds of things that you can find a place. But I couldn't find a hotel. I couldn't find anything to pull in their parking lot and just take a nap. And we were kind of broke. I hate to break it to you. I hate to admit it, but we were really still kind of broke. We were still, I wasn't in $800,000 in debt back then. I was maybe about three or $400,000 in debt back in, but we still didn't have money. And so I hadn't budgeted anything for a hotel. The plan was go up, have a good time, come back home. I greatly misunderestimated my endurance level, 4 months pregnant in my 40s. So anyway, we try out this new thing called Airbnb, and there it is. Some guy's got his room for rent for $25. And I'm like, you know what? I don't care right now. I am just gonna get this room. Well, I'll tell you what, it didn't really work out the way I thought because we couldn't find his house. It took us 45 minutes to get there in Pittsburgh. And so by the time we found his house, I was like, all right, I could have been a third of the way. I could have been a fourth of the way home by now. And then because he had one of those high beds, I kept being worried that Philip was going to fall out of the bed because he was like 9, almost 10 at the time. I kept being worried he was going to fall out of the bed and wake up in an unfamiliar house. And so I really did not get much sleep. I got enough to get home safely the next morning. And for 25 bucks, I'm not going to be mad at it. But I've certainly never done that again. But anyway, I just want you to know that for what I'm going to say, I love Airbnbs, and I actually intend to do some short-term rentals myself. It's just that where I have properties, you have to live in them 51% of the year in order to legally do Airbnbs. Okay, according to the contractors that said they were, help me renovate, you really don't have to. But I'm not trying to get in any trouble, especially in today's day and age, y'all. So Airbnb arbitrage. So, okay, I did not explain what Airbnb was. My video probably explained it, but if you're listening to me as part of the Ladies of Wealth podcast, I just realized I didn't actually explain it. What an Airbnb is where somebody rents out their property for short-term rentals for a day, 5 days, 10 days. You can do longer terms too, but it's generally less than 9 months, I think. Because I think anything, I don't know if it's 6 months or if it's a year, but I think that also depends on your jurisdiction. Anything that's too long is a standard rental lease that has standard consumer protections, but short-term rentals generally don't have those kinds of consumer protections. And so you can rent out a room, you can rent out a couch. Some people rent out space on their floor. Some people rent a tent in their backyard. Some people rent out campers in their backyard. Some people buy a series of campers or tiny homes or those 50K modular homes that I think are pretty cool, little tiny homes, and they put a bunch of them on their property. Some people take their properties, like where I'm at. Like if we moved out of this house, we could Airbnb this house. And you have basic furnishings, and there's certain things that people like. They like a Keurig, they like a full-size fridge, and I do mean a full-size fridge. Don't front on me with them little fridges that are like this, and then it's like this much of a freezer. Like that is not full size. Anyway, rant off. So people are people are renting their own private spaces to other people. I do like Airbnbs because it makes some unique opportunities to go stay in places you otherwise wouldn't. I don't have the video queued up. Our last retreat that we did was with my church. I planned a retreat in the mountains of New Mexico. It was amazing, amazing views. And we actually had two really great properties I was choosing between, and both of them were high up in the mountains, visibility for miles. It was just fantastic. And so you can find a lot of really eclectic places. Like somewhere along Route 66 is Miss Kitty's. And while some of the property is a little older and needs some, got some deferred maintenance, that was one of the funnest places we stayed. It was one of the most kitschy places, fun places, nice staff that we stayed. It's not as big and swanky as the Colorado one I just showed you, but yeah, we just had a lot of fun with them. So that's what Airbnb is. Now, what's Airbnb arbitrage? What Airbnb arbitrage does is you make an arrangement with somebody who is releasing their rooms. So they might have a room for rent, a house for rent, a mother-in-law suite for rent. Usually you want the whole property. Okay. You don't want to really do this with a room. Okay. But you can. You know, it's very similar to house hacking, where people say, "Oh, I'm going to house hack." Really, you're just taking in borders. But if you use the whole house in a house hack situation, you can actually make more money than you would just renting it out regularly. You have a lot more headaches too, but what's what more important to you, right? So you approach somebody who's got their property on Airbnb, and what you do is you let them know, "Hey, I can get you I can get you more rent if you'll let me just take control of the property." And then what the arbitrager does is they rent it day by day. I think I may have said that wrong in the beginning. Okay, let me back up. The Airbnb arbitrage, very similar to lease option things that people do where they control both sides of the deal. Okay, you find somebody who's got a property that they're renting out week at a time or month at a time, and they have this level of income. Okay. And you do your analysis and you see that people who are doing dailies have this level of income. Well, maybe that landlord at this level of income doesn't want to deal with that turnaround, and maybe they don't want to deal with that, the constant turnover and the constant cleaning and the constant complaints and things like that. So what you do is you make an agreement with them, because you've done your research, you can rent it. So this is going to be my spread. Okay, this is going to be, let me see if I can draw it out. All right. My clipboard is at the office. We can do this. Okay, so this is Airbnb. Okay, let's call this the weekly rate. Let's call that the weekly rate that they're charging. Okay. But if you've done your research, that you could get that whatever certain number of days filled that you could get, that you would make this much. Now, we don't question why the people who are renting it weekly only do. In my opinion, the more turnover you have, the more headaches you have. The more turnover you have, the more you have to rely on maid staff, and sometimes that's hard to do. The more turnover you have, the more likely things get broken. The more turnover you have, the more people call you in the middle of the night, unless you put protections in place so they're not bothering you. But then you have to worry about ratings and blah, 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 blah. Okay. So what the arbitrager does is they go to that person and they say, "Look, if you let me, here we go. If you let me, I will pay you. Hold on. Let me draw my graph. Monthly income at rental rates." Okay, so let's just say this is my monthly income at rental rates. So if I am renting it weekly, this is what I make in a month. If I'm renting it daily, and I'm using the example of 20 a day, 20 days a month, because I don't think anybody's really going to be able to. Well, some locations you can get it full all the time, but that's still a lot of overhead and service fees and stuff. It has to really be the right market. But I'm just using a number that's average. If I could do 20 days a month daily, this is the income I could have. All right. So what you do is you go to the person who's offering it for weekly, and you say, I'll pay you this higher amount to let me take charge of your property. That's all it really is. I'll pay you this higher amount every month to let me take charge of your property. And then what you do is you pay them, they make more, they make that spread. Okay. And then you do about what you've got to do in order to rent it out. And then you make, okay, I'm going to go over my words here. That blue part is yours. So you're collecting this. Okay, you're collecting this green. You're paying this green plus this red to the person whose property it actually is, and you are keeping the spread. Now that sounds like a super great idea. And you know what? On paper, it is free. So why do you hear hesitation? So why do you hear hesitation on my voice? Huh? Now, look, if you're listening to this as part of the Ladies of Wealth podcast, I want you to go look at my YouTube channel at JJ Knows the Way. We are looking at changing our handle, but for now, it's at JJ Knows the Way. I want you to go look so you can see the graphic, okay? Because what we're basically doing is somebody's got their property offered at one price. We are paying them more for the price. And then we are charging we're charging others to rent the property daily, and we are making more money, and we are keeping the spread. That's all that Airbnb arbitrage is. Can it work? Sure, it can work. Is it a free? I wouldn't call it free, because the tools that you need to use to make it work very well cost some money. But can it work? Absolutely. Do I recommend it? I probably don't recommend it unless you already have experience with Airbnb and you already have some understanding of how to work the system, and you already have some understanding of rentals, and you are either the kind of person who can build a network super quick, or you're the kind of person that already has a network. Okay. And some people advocate that you do your own cleaning. If you're in your own town and you can do your cleaning, that cleaning, finding a solid, reputable cleaner and having solid, reputable cleaning processes is the number one headache with these Airbnb properties. But if you can get that locked down, you got a good support system, a good team, or you can be connected with one, or you're in a market where Airbnb is very popular, some of the destination resort areas, well, then, yeah, you could make that work. And I'm not going to tell you it's a scam. I'm gonna pick my flag up and I'm gonna put it back in my pocket and say, you know what, this one's not actually a scam. It may not work for everyone, because there's usually reasons why somebody who's in Airbnb to make more money is choosing not to make more money. But that doesn't mean it isn't legit. Okay, it just means you need to make sure you do your research. All right. And so that brings me to something that, I saw one of these ads on YouTube, I think it was. Was it YouTube? Whatever it was, I was listening to something that's usually visual content, but I was driving cross country. That's why I was so tickled when this question came in, because I had just went through and evaluated somebody's course on this stuff. I didn't actually take the course. I just watched their intro video. They all have like the little ad that pops up, and it's a 2-minute video, and watch this 30-minute training, and then click to get this longer training, and then we'll sell you our $10,000 course, right? I'm not saying it doesn't work, but I think the people that are making the most money off of this are the people bringing people into the courses. So now let's think about this though, because you can really arbitrage just about anything. Like you can, it's the same thing that we do with lease options. We talk to the owner of the property. We get them to lock down a price for an option fee. We rent out the house or rent out the room to somebody else who wants to buy it. We charge them more than the original seller is charging us. We charge them a higher rent than the original seller is charging us. We collect the spread, and it's a win-win-win. We get the spread. The end buyer gets a house. The previous seller, the actual seller, gets rid of a headache. It's a great strategy when it works. It can be a bad strategy when it becomes predatory. Okay. So yeah, I love the question. I absolutely love the question. I love Airbnbs. If you can make it work and you're in an area where that kind of thing can work, that's fine. But what this is predicated on, okay, is predicated on being able to find properties that are undervalued. And again, you can do this with anything. People ask me, excuse me for saying, people ask me, how did you get out of over $800,000 of debt? And they're always surprised at my answers, because my answer is not sexy or exciting. I started off generating a little bit of extra money with MLM businesses that I was already connected with, but I did only use for personal use. So I had Discovery Toys, I had Avon, and I had Mary Kay. And then I moved, and Discovery Toys kind of fell away, because I went from living in a high cost of living area where the toys were cheaper than Target to living in a low cost area where the toys were double what anybody else could pay. So that one went away. But Mary Kay and Avon, I made a good $100, $200, $300 a month between the two of them. That's when you subtract out the costs of your orders, and for Avon, the campaigns where you put out the booklets or you have the website fees and all that. I made a good couple of $100 off of that. And then I made a good $1,000 to $2,000 a month picking. which is basically reselling, which is kind of what this level of Airbnb arbitrage is. I'd find stuff cheap at consignment shops. I'd wait, because almost all of them back then did the brown bag special. I don't know what they do today, but they back then they did the brown bag special, or Goodwill. Was it Goodwill? I think it was Goodwill. They had the colored tags, and so if you went when those tags expired, all of that stuff would be like 75% off, 90% off. I don't know if it was Goodwill, but I know Goodwill does something like that. The one I'm thinking of, they had different weeks where things were different percent off. I would just go through the store and look for whatever was the 90% off that week, and I would just stack it all up, and then I would turn around and take it to a consignment stop and sell it. Or if the consignment stop did a $2 bag on Fridays of all the stuff that didn't sell, I would fill that $2 bag and I would turn around and resell it at half of what they offered. So if the original consigner tried to sell their Gloria Vanderbilt jeans for $30, well, and it didn't sell, because you can get them for $30 at Sam's Club, I would just turn around and come back and sell them for 15. And I almost always sold out. All my stuff almost always sold out. Every once in a while, something didn't sell out, and I would get it back in the next $2 bag special, because I usually if I liked something, I would get it back and just lower the price again. So, and then when I lost weight and I went from, my pregnancy, with Philip, I gained like 65 pounds, y'all. So when I lost that pregnancy weight, all those bigger clothes that I wouldn't even be able to fit into today. I'm the biggest of my biggest normal adult weight, and I still wouldn't be able to fit in those size 22 and 24 clothes. So all that stuff, hey, people laugh at it, but I'm like, that's how I made money. I dabbled in eBay a little bit, but the shipping and all that was just too much for me, so it was just easier to do stuff local, go to yard sales and all that stuff. And then that's how I got out those two methods, y'all. Those two methods, the mommy MLMs, and which is why, even though I don't think MLMs are a good business for most people, I will never tell you don't do them if it's a good fit for you. Okay, because I'm thankful for Mary Kay and Avon at that point in my life, very much so. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had any fun, because my fun jewelry and my fun lipstick and my fun scents, all that stuff came out of my sales profit from those things. And then, picking, that's how I got out of the first $120,000 of consumer debt. And the rest of it was upside down real estate debt. But and that's when I started teaching classes, like how to think and grow, like the Think and Grow Rich class, and how to get out of debt and how to invest in real estate. Like I started teaching those classes to multiply and scale the getting out of debt, because I'd already been out of debt once, and so I already knew the process. I just was dumb and got back into it. No, you got to be really dumb to get almost $1 million of debt. But when you believe in your man, you'll sign just about anything. So believe in your man, but check the numbers. Check the numbers, y'all. Okay. Anyway, I do think that's a good thing. I want to qualify. When you see these things on Amazon, not Amazon, when you see these things on YouTube or Instagram or whatever, or the TikTok or whatever it is, if they sound too good to be true, make sure you pay attention to the fine print, because there was another one. It wasn't the one about the Airbnb arbitrage, but there was another one that was like, yeah, our company, we make all this money on Amazon. And then I noticed what they did. They peppered it in. They would talk about how this person's making $10,000 a month, or this person's making $20,000 a month with their method. And they would pepper it in. Now, this is not a get rich quick scheme. This isn't going to make you a millionaire. But, if you just want to bring in an extra couple $100 and you can put, 3 to 4 hours a day towards it. And I'm like, she just sprinkled that on in there. And then as soon as she would say something like that, they would bring one of these, small print says, these results are not typical. Your mileage may vary, something to that effect. They would roll in with this. Yeah, I make $10,000 a month on this, and I'm on track next year to make $150,000. And you're like, but did you hear what she said? She said what she said for a reason. So I want you to pay very special attention to those things, because sometimes, a lot of times, and I know, because I'm a motivational speaker. And guess what? If I come speak at your event, I'm going to want to sell some books if I'm allowed to. And if I sell my books, if I'm not allowed to sell my books, either way, I'm going to invite you to come to my coaching. I'm going to invite you to come be part of my ecosystem. I'm going to try to sell you into classes. That's how we make our money. Well, guess what? There are a lot of people out there that are making more money selling you this dream on how to make more money than actually making their money through doing what they're teaching you how to do. And 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 I benefited from that. Because when I was $500,000 in debt, do you think I was buying property? I was $5,000 in debt. I'm $500,000 in debt. Let me say that again. When excuse me, when I was $500,000 in debt, do you think I was buying property? No, I wasn't buying property. I was $500,000 in debt, but I was teaching you how to buy property. I had already at one time in my life bought property. I had already in one time in my life renovated property. I had already at one time in my life rented out property, and I was still renting out those properties that were upside down, right? But I wasn't buying anything. And I'm going to tell you, I made really good money. And if I was in the DC area still, well, I don't know about today, but over the years, if I had never left the DC area, I'm pretty sure I would have made more money teaching people how to invest in real estate than I would have made actually from the properties I had. And of course, what would I do? Use that money to buy more real estate, because I'm not going to be able to teach forever. Even if my content is out there, people want live interaction, you know? So, I mean, people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to build this library and it's going to sell while I sleep and I'll never have to work again. And I'm like, you know, anyway, so, so just make sure you pay attention to the fine print, because if the company is actually a decent company, they will scale your expectations slightly. They will be honest, and then they will give you something else to get you all excited. And they'll be honest and they'll give you something else to get you all excited. Okay. But you do have to understand, a lot, and this is not of those who can't teach kind of thing. Okay. I I I have long since wanted one of my family members to be the person, be the face of this company and actually teach you all the stuff. I was going to be the back end business and I was going to do all the setups and everything. But her personality is magical. Her wisdom and her expertise, and the fact that she's sharp as a tack and knows what she's doing and has been doing the thing. I knew the minute I could get her behind a camera, we were all going to make a lot of money. But she didn't do it. She didn't want to do it. She didn't need to do it. She already got her money. So I was like, okay, here I go. Here I go, And so, but a lot of people who are selling you this stuff, I'm telling you right now, a lot of people who are selling you some stuff, they are making more money selling it to you than they are actually doing the thing. So when you are learning from somebody like that, you need to make sure that you vet them and that they actually have done the thing, or that they are connected to people who are doing the things. Because sometimes the best people to talk it to you and teach it to you aren't necessarily the ones that are in the trenches, but that's okay as long as they're connected to somebody who is in the trenches. But you don't want to get yourself hooked up to and spend thousands and thousands of dollars with a company that's got a lot of talk and a very little behind the scenes actions. It's got a lot of talk, but very little results. I'll never forget when I moved back to DC and I was so excited about getting connected with my real estate investor groups again. And there was a group, I don't want to name the area because I don't want to implicate anybody, but there was a group in a particular area of town that when I left my first assignment to the Pentagon, there was a particular person teaching that group, and she was wonderful. Just the nicest person, most genuine person. I learned so much through her. We played a lot of cash flow 101 and things like that. Just really opened up my eyes to the real estate world. And since I hope I didn't say where it was. Ah! I'll have to go back and see. Okay, so if I'm editing this podcast or if somebody else is editing this podcast, please, please, please take that out. And if not, oh well. But this certain area of town, this one person was leading the group. Well, I couldn't remember her name. It was 4 or 5 years later. I come back and now there's a new person, a new lady leading this group. And because they kind of favored each other, I thought it was the same person. I was so excited to reconnect with her. I was a little bummed she didn't seem to recognize me. But as a lot of con artists are, this new person was just like, welcome in. As long as you're paying your fees, your membership fees, welcome in. And then I began to notice The tools that they promised for members was broken. The back end chat was broken. The access to all the tools, all these things that they promised were broken. And month after month, I would go up and be like, hey, y'all need to fix this. You're advertising this, but it's still broken. You're advertising this, but it's still broken. And then I finally realized, because hope, charity believes all things, love believes all things. I was hoping against hope because in my mind, I had already had 4 years of education with this wonderful person. Maybe 2 years because they weren't there. They had just started this thing and I was a part of them starting it up. So finally, I realized, okay, if this is the same person, then they have changed because they're basically scamming people. And they're like, I know, I know, I know. And then the people they had working their back at the table were like, yeah, well, it's broken, but stay connected and it won't matter. That stuff doesn't really matter. Most people who buy, they're not trying to use that stuff anyway. They just paying to be in the group, but they're not actually going to use it. And I'm like, yeah, well, I paid into it to get access to those things. So I want those things. So then I had to go and issue an apology to all the people that I had brought in who were now paying these people money. And I was like, do not renew. I'm so sorry. I got it confused. And it turned out that the person I was talking about, the person I thought about, had moved to another area where they were originally from. And there they were running that group. And so, it's a hard lesson, but you have to pay attention to who's who. And in these hard economic times, you're going to find more people coming in and stealing from you, basically lying to you to get your money. And so just pay attention to the fine print, pay attention to what they say between the lines, and then pay attention to the actual results. Because it's one thing for people to get up and say, oh, well, this person made $100,000 on their very first deal and they have no experience with Airbnb. They have no experience with real estate. They have no experience with renovations. But then you find out later that that person was a realtor, or you find out later that that person was a general contractor. So yeah, they may never have had any experience with they may have never had any experience with renovation. No, not renovations, with real estate investing, but they've been doing renovations for the last 30 years. They know how to spot a good property with good bones. They know how much stuff is going to cost to get it done. They got the network it takes to get it done at rock bottom prices. They got the network it takes to get stuff done at rock bottom prices. You don't have that, but they dangle that in front of you like, look at this amazing first deal. Yeah, it's amazing because that person spent 20 years in the industry, Okay, anyway, we're going to move. I can't believe I spent so much time on that. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, oh well. Okay, we're going to move on to the next question. I have so much more I want to say. Since we're talking about scams here, and I wanted the Airbnb arbitrage to be our scam Saturday. We're trying to rename it. It was Juice with JJ, but I want it to be about scams and things. And I just haven't figured out a really good name for it. So I'm not gonna. I don't know if it's 30 minutes. I'm not gonna do that, but because that's supposed to be a shorter episode, or maybe I'm just gonna get rid of those and just make them all half hours. I don't know what we're gonna do. If you have an idea, drop it in the chat and let me know. Okay. Speaking of chat, let me check the chat. Okay. All right. So you I almost hesitate to say this because I don't want y'all to think I'm dumb. Uh, but I know that when it comes to a lot of life things, I'm usually like the last to know. So like we're at our annual youth church convention that we have every year, and they're like, well, what do parents need and what is this? And I'm like, we need to be talking to these babies about sexual stuff that's happening in the schools, in kindergarten and preschool. And I'm like shocked at the story that I'm telling what happened with my son and what one of the girls said to him in preschool and stuff like that. And everybody kind of looks at me, they're like, yeah, we all know that. And I'm like, well, I didn't know that. Nobody ever warned me that I was going to have to deal with these issues this early. This is my oldest. I know now. Look, I talk to Cubby about everything now. And I've always been open to talk to Philip about everything. I just didn't know I needed to that early. But everybody else was like, we already know that. Like, we already know about, the sex and the drugs and the other things at school. Like, I was just like, what? Oh, I'll spare y'all the story, but let me tell you, when he told me what the little girl was saying to him and doing, for him. Uh, we almost got in an accident that day. We almost didn't. We almost caused a huge pile up. We almost didn't make it out alive. But God, Jesus, take the wheel. I'm glad He took the wheel, y'all. Okay. But you have to pay attention to things because there are a lot of scams out there, especially when it comes to the personal growth field. In fact, I'm not going to say that this thing itself is a scam. It could be legit. But when you question something and they come back at you with an insult in in the dating world and in a lot of the negotiation world, that's called negging. Like they're going to put you down because now it's going to make you want to prove your worth, right? You know, especially like this is like especially one of those things that they teach guys, like if you're going after a really good looking lady that's out of your league, and or you perceive that she's out of your league, she probably just wants to be treated nice and nobody else does. So if you treat her nice, she'll probably give you much more time than you realize. But anyway, free dating advice from somebody who's not a dating expert. But they call it negging, and basically, if you've got somebody that's used to being up on a pedestal, you come in and you cut them down a little bit, and now they take note of that. So instead of gushing over how amazing they are and how much you want them to buy your stuff, they're trying to prove themselves to you. Instead of gushing over how beautiful she is, you cut her down, and now she's trying to prove herself to you. It's called negging. You can look it up. Uh, in fact, if you are a single woman, especially if you're like I was when I became single again, you might want to look up some of these player dating sites so you can get an idea of what's actually happening in some of this stuff, because it will open up your eyes for real, for real. Okay, but when you make a comment and somebody comes back at you with an insult, that is not a signal for you to like rise up to the occasion and prove them wrong. They're trying to get you to do that so that you'll be more likely to buy. And so I was on this thing and it was like $5 for all these great videos of great leaders. And I'm trying to be very careful. And one of the leaders I'm very much connected to. So I asked the question, well, what's the upsell? And one of the people that got on there was like, "Well, it's great that you asked that question because that shows you know what a funnel is. But why are you even asking the question? Because it's $5, and if you're connected with this person, and it's well worth more than that." And I'm like, "Okay, well, first of all, you didn't answer my question." And what I typed back was, "Well, that's the nicest put down I've seen in a while." He wrote some more stuff, but I was just like, "Look, I'm connected to this person. I've probably seen all this content before." And I'm sure that the value is not just in the $5 loss leader. I'm sure the value, now I didn't type all this, y'all. I'm just giving you my thought process. I'm sure there's the value to the people who are putting this together. It costs them nothing to offer something so valuable at $5. But if I've already seen those talks, if I was already in the audience when they recorded those talks, if I've already been at the conference or received the training for those talks, $5 is still $5 I didn't need to spend. And so you have to be really careful when it comes to money about people trying to make you feel like something's wrong with you for not spending your money, because it's your money. And yeah, it might only be $5, but $5 here plus $5 there plus $5 here plus $5 there plus 500 here and then 5,000 there, it all adds up. Okay. And so even if people were to tell me now, "Oh, this is the most amazing training, and yeah, this is different from anything else that so and so big name has ever put out, and you're going to love it, you should do it." I'm not going to do it. You know why? Because you were rude to me. And I don't have to give you my money. I got plenty of good content that I have from my connections. All right. So in any event, that I'm going to skip the 40K. We're going to come back to the 40K. I'm going to tie that into the third question for today, which we're going to make our second question, which says, "You always say to wait a day before buying on impulse. Doesn't that cause you to miss out on fantastic deals?" And so I'm very much a big fan of wait, because, and I don't know what it is. Like I never used to be this person, right? Like I never used to be the person that was like, "Oh, I'm going to buy this right away. Oh, that sounds so good." I've always known it's a sales pitch and it's a funnel and there's a categories. Like you come to my free hotel room event, I'm going to sell you into $1,000 hotel room event. I'm going to sell you into at the $1,000 one, I'm going to have me and a whole bunch of other speakers, and a bunch of us are going to sell you into our next level $3,000 event. And then we're going to sell you into our coaching program. We're probably going to give it away free if you buy the $3,000 event. But when you get into the coaching, oh, you want real coaching? Well, that's the $18,000 plan. And then you get into the $18,000 plan, and then you find out in order to work on them one-on-one, you need the $35,000 plan. That is the progression. That has been the progression ever since I first went into business. Okay, that's been the progression. Now the numbers might change slightly, but that's basically how it goes. Like somebody else was telling me they bought into a real estate thing that was basically $50,000 a year, and I was like, for what? And they're like, yeah, for nothing. We didn't really get anything out of it. I was like, well, come to my classes, because if you got $50,000 a year to do, the first thing we're gonna go do is go buy a property. We gonna go find us a $40,000 or $30,000 property in one of these rural places. And those of you in high income places, you can still find properties on the outskirts or the inner city for for very, very cheap. The greater the disparity, the more work it's going to need, But like that $3,000 property that I had in Baltimore, or that I have in Baltimore City, you know, those deals are still there, right? But if you got $50,000 a year to spend on real estate education, I'm gonna get you some real estate education firsthand. We're gonna take that $50,000. I mean, you're gonna pay it to me first. No. We're gonna take that $50,000 and we're gonna go find a property and we're gonna work on the property. We're either gonna flip the property or we're gonna rent it out, and you are gonna get way more real estate education out of that property than you would have gotten from anybody else's course. Guaranteed. Okay. And so a lot of times you go to these events and it's like, well, if you do this right today, we're going to give you this, and we're going to give you this, and we're going to give you this, and we're going to give you that. And I'm not knocking it. I do the same thing. If you miss the self-image rising class, it's back on 48-hour sale. So we're on week 3. You can go out there. Oh, did I put the link out? I don't know if I put the link out. I think it's in the description of this thing. There's a link there. Go use it. Go get it. I'm not above using that whole thing. And when you get into that class, guess what? When you finish that class, there's going to be another class. And I want to use those pressure tactics like, hey, the $400 off, it's only for 48 hours. It might only be for 24 hours. I don't know. You need to click on it now so you can get you some and get it at the $99 price instead of $4.99 regular price. Like, go do that right now. You can listen to me and do that at the same time. You see what I'm saying? Like, I am not above using scarcity to motivate you to buy something. But we want to make sure that what we're buying is really going to help us move forward. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think in the last 4 or 5 years I've ever felt the pressure to buy this or that product or take advantage of this last minute thing, or I've only got 12 hours to make a decision, or I've only got 12 minutes to make a decision, whatever it is. I don't think any of those things that I've done in the last couple of years has actually really worked out for me. If I will be honest with you, there are platforms that I bought into and it was like, oh, you've got 5 hours left before the lifetime access runs out, and then you're gonna have to pay a subscription. And I buy into it thinking, oh yeah, this is gonna be lifetime access. And some of those, the lifetime access was a pain, and you can't ever edit anything once you do it once. They don't tell you that because they didn't have it all the way built out first. And then there's another one. I think some of you on my mailing list saw that, or on my Facebook saw that. There's another one that I bought lifetime access to. It was such a great platform that I bought multiple accounts, multiple lifetime accesses, one for my church, one for my leadership course, I bought multiples of them. And then they're like, yeah, well, I know we promised you lifetime access with unlimited everything, but we can't keep doing that. We want you to pay us more money. So now you're going to have to do lifetime access to just 3 products. Well, that's not even a really good that's not even a good funnel and continuity program. A good funnel and continuity program. Maybe I'll teach on that later if we have time. A good funnel and continuity program. You bring somebody in for free. You give them something low cost, like a $9 to $29. Then you give them something higher cost, like a $49 to $50 or to $99, and then you give them something higher cost, and then you move them into a continuity program of mentoring and other stuff. So like that's the progression. I can't even do that with a 3-item lifetime. So anyway, Not venting, not salty or anything. Yeah, I'm still irritated about that, because you sold me something, and then I unsubscribed to the place that was offering all those lifetime deals. I'm like, this is like the fourth or fifth time that it was lifetime, and then it wasn't. So no, I'm not going to be a member of your thing anymore. And so for me, I think about some of the other things that I bought access to that were like, oh, this is running out, this is running out, and everything's part of the journey, right? Like everything is part of the journey. So I'm not going to say that this wasn't part of the journey or that wasn't part of the journey. But I think about some of the things and I'm like, I didn't make any money with that. I threw money after that with the hope that I could really, elevate and do this and do that. But honestly, it was empty promises. Now, there are excellent service providers that I worked with and excellent people that, like Pam Perry for PR, Shay Brown's team for your conference streaming and stuff like that. Those things were amazing, right? Not things. I didn't mean to say it like that, but those people are amazing to work with, right? But, some of these tools, and so I really, I really believe in waiting a day. If it's something you weren't already planning on doing, wait. Wait for it to be the right time. Wait for it to be in your discretionary income. If you now if you see something that's amazing and it's like $500 and you've got 50,000 in the bank and you were planning on networking and spending a good $5,000 to $10,000 to grow your business, well, buy the $500 thing. I mean, it's not gonna. It's like me going to buy a Starbucks. Well, it's like me going to buy a Starbucks. It's pricey, but it's not gonna kill me. It's not gonna derail my financial plan, which is a blessing. I appreciate it. Thank you, Lord. But if $500 is going to make or break whether you feed your kid enough next month, and I don't care what that person is saying about how this is going to change your life and this is going to 10x your business and blah 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 blah, you got to feed your kid next month. Maybe you spend $25 on an impulse purchase. We want to keep everything within parameters, everything within the scope. And so, well, what can you lose out on? Okay, well, if I don't buy this thing at this conference, okay, so conference speaker gets up. I'm going to make something up, okay? Speaker gets up. They got magic bugs, okay? They got magic bugs. Oh, sorry, y'all. And I'm live too. So y'all all saw that. And now I'm thirsty, so now I want to drink it because everybody else is asleep. Oh man, hold on. Hmm. What kind of tea was that? I don't. Man, that's from the World Center in Marriott too. I'm surprised. You know what? That must be good with some honey. That is not good plain. I'm just gonna put that right over there. Okay. Let's just say, okay. Let's just say I have a tea company, okay? Because I'm drinking this nasty tea. Let's say I have a tea company and somebody comes out with magic mugs. This is not a magic mug. This is a Tarleton criminology. Oh, you know what? I know somebody who wants to be in that program. I gotta give them this mug. You know what? I should. I'm gonna give them this mug. I'm gonna clean it up and give it to them. Uh, but let's say somebody's selling magic mugs, and every time you put your tea in this magic mug, it is guaranteed a sale. And all you need to do for this magic mug, all you need to do is invest $10,000 into these. You will have so many magic mugs, they practically sell themselves. It's going to take your tea business up to the next level. You can put your logo on it and everybody's just going to love the magic mugs. And they make it sound so good. And then they say, when these magic mugs are normally retail for $20 a pop, but we are going to give you a special deal because you're here today, and we don't have to sell, and get you into our storefront. We're going to give them to you for $10 a mug. But you know what we're going to do? If you do it right now, because I've got 5 boxes over there and I don't want to take them back to Texas with me. If you'll buy them right now, I'm going to give them to you at $5 a pop. And each case has got 100 mugs in it. And so come get your magic mug for just $500. It's going to put hundreds of thousands of dollars in your pocket in your tea business, right? I can make that sound good. I don't know if I made that sound good because y'all saw the face I made when I drank the tea, but I can make that sound good. And you'll be like, oh, I should get this because I'm never going to be able to find the magic mug for $5 a pop again. And then the speaker knows you're already on the edge of your seat and you're like, I don't have $500, but this I need something to next level my business. And so then they throw it in. They throw it in. They throw it in. They say you get the magic mug, and then we're gonna throw in a case of spa treatments. I am totally making this up. For those of you who just joined us, I am totally making this up with things that are randomly on my desk. I don't even know why these are in here, but we're gonna throw this in. And if you are listening to me as part of the Ladies of Wealth podcast, I encourage you to join us on Thursday nights. We have a great time. Okay, so you're gonna get your magic mug for just $500. $500 a case. There's 100 in there, and then you're gonna get 100 spa kits. So now you can package your tea with your magic mug and your spa kit, and you can sell those for $50 a pop, and people will just buy them. Money is hand over fist, and you're sitting there like, I have been struggling with this tea business all year long, and I just don't know what else to do. This is gonna take me to the next level. And they push you over the edge, and then comes the cherry on top. And only if you do it while we're in the next 10 minutes, I'll throw in $1,000 of coaching, because my half-hour coaching is worth $1,000. People pay me $1,000 for 30 minutes of coaching. You know, half the people who say that are lying. Now, I do know some people, and I have paid for coaching of people who charge those kind of prices legit. But most of the people who are out there saying that, they are lying through their teeth, y'all. They are inflating their value to make you want to jump in. Okay. And now if you're one of those, don't you be mad at me. Let me just pause on that, because I can hear somebody else be like, JJ, why are you saying all this? Because we should all be in this speaker thing together. First of all, you probably ain't never paid me. Second of all, you probably scamming people. Third of all, you make it harder for genuine and honest people like me to help people, because they're so used to being scammed when they get into your $1,000 coaching thing, and they realize all you're going to do is ask them the same questions the lady on YouTube asked them. So don't come at me with that. All right. I'm trying to help people get ahead. I'm a huge fan of coaching. I'm a huge fan of taking classes with people. I'm a huge fan of paying for mentoring, because that's how you shorten your learning curve, and that's how you pull out from within you the best possible answer for your success. But I am not a fan of God's people getting scammed. Okay. So now you're on the edge of your seat. The magic mug is $5 a pop if you buy it today, because they don't want to take any home. You know, they never want to take any home. In fact, a lot of places will actually give a lot of stuff away because they don't want to take it home. And then they sweeten the deal with the spa kit. And these things are like 25 cents a pop, but they're telling you can put them with the magic mug and your tea, because you're at the tea seller conference. They're telling you can sell it for $50, and you believe that because you just want to believe anything right now that's going to help move you forward. And then they say, I'm going to give you 30 minutes of my time. That's $1,000 bonus if you sign up if you're one of the next 9 people that sign up. Only 9 slots, because my time is valuable and I can't give it away to everybody in the room. And the next thing you know, you got your card in hand, you're running to the back of the room, you slap your card down, and you buy the package, and you go home, and somehow what you thought was going to be a $500 infusion to your tea business becomes $500 of debt that you can't pay this bill and you can't pay that bill. And now everything reverberates, late fees build up, and now you're $1,000 in the hole, with 100 mugs nobody wants, and a bunch of raggedy, low-cost spa kits that you can't even give away. Ask me how I know. I learned those lessons the hard way. And so that's why I waited. There's very few deals in my life that haven't come back around. Now, I'll give you an example of one. I just posted about, I didn't actually post about it. I posted on their thing. It's the Life Surge Conference. Let me see if they changed it. Because I was on the fence about it, right? On the fence about it, because the people that are in there, they have some really great deals, and they're having a sale. Well, they sold out of the package that I wanted, which would have given me, let me just go back and see if they've opened some more up. Okay. Yeah, they're sold out of the package that I wanted, which was going to give me pictures with Nick Vujicic. You know, y'all remember from my Global Youth Initiative stuff, the guy with no limbs, Ed Milet, Tim Tebow, Priscilla Shirer. I was like, "Ooh, this is a good package." And in the sale that they were offering, it was only like $149 or something like that. And I'm like, I'll pay that to get those photos. But I also know I've got my lifetime presidential awards that night, and I just waited on it. I was like, I'll wait on it. Okay. Do I feel bad that I missed out on that? Yes, but you know what probably was going to happen? Those photos probably would have made me late for my own presidential lifetime award. And I always trust the Lord to work it out. There's other times where I've missed out on something, but you know what? At the end of the day, I didn't need it. There are other times where I've missed out on something, and you know what happened? That deal came back around. That deal came back around. I was either at another conference, or I was in another situation, or I was in another something, 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 and somehow the deal fell back into my lap. The deal of a century comes around every week, every month, sometimes every day. So I really, really, really feel like if we are having struggles with impulse shopping, I highly recommend that you use my wait a day mantra. Okay. Wait a day. Yes, I know you might miss out on this and you might miss out on that, but I promise you, these things come back around. They come back around. And if you have to hesitate today, okay, if you have to think about it and you're not sure, then think about it and be sure the next time it comes around. Like there's a popular speaker who I've done a lot of collaborations with, and I've spoken at a lot of their events. I've participated in some of their magazines and things like that. And you know, anything that they have that's in my price range and budget has been profitable for me. So anytime it comes back around, I'm going to do it. There's been things that they've had that were not in my price range or my budget at the moment, and I didn't do it. But did it kill my business? No, it didn't kill my business. What would have killed my business was going into debt to do this, or using money to do this when I needed it to do that, you know? And I didn't know that that was coming, but when it came, I was glad I didn't spend it all on this, because then I had it to spend on that. And that took me further faster, as Joseph, is it Joseph McClendon? Oh man, I forget his name. But the marvelous, the magnificent life guy. Uh anyway, I've taken his oh, anyway. So I understand the deals, but I also understand when it comes to life and it comes to business, it comes to finance, there's always going to be something. There's always going to be something else that could 10x your business. There's always going to be something else that could, make things better for you. There's always going to be something else out there promising to help you lose weight fast and to get healthy fast, and make your husband or your wife like you more fast. Like, there's all those things are always out there. There's all those, any problem you have, there's always a solution that's out there promising you the world. But wait until you're ready. You know, like I go to the Power Networking Conference, and a lot of my headliners for some of my events are people who I participate in the Brain Knowledge Share. So they have a knowledge share, a knowledge exchange. I forget what exactly it's called, but it's like a knowledge exchange charity thing. And we bid on certain packages that these high level people offer. And so, I've been mentored by some really amazing people, and I've had some really amazing people come and headline. And so when I go to that conference, this is my budget. This is what I'm going to spend on this on next year's conference, or this conference or that conference, whatever ones I'm working on. These are my budgets for those different things. And if I can save money on one, I'll have more to put to another. But what I don't do, because I made the mistake before, I don't take on more than I can handle. And I realize that if it's not for me, it's not for me. You can plan now, and you can say, okay, here's what I need in my business. Here's what I need in my health. Here's what I need in my life. You can do that kind of planning now, so that when the opportunity comes, you're not actually acting on impulse. So let me talk about that just a little bit. I bought into a speaking engagement back during the pandemic. I bought into a speaking engagement, and the lady, I would give her name, but I don't know how she would feel about being associated with what I'm about to say. I actually super highly respect this person. They have helped a lot of people succeed in business. And the person who walked me through, they were walking me through their funnel. And I thought it was interesting that they were sharing me their funnel because at the time I didn't care about funnels. I just wanted to know how am I going to be with, Les Brown and George Fraser and all these other high big name people. Like I want to be able to put in my portfolio. I share the stage with these people, right? And so I had just bought into their speaking thing because those are the people who were headlining. And walking through the funnel and she's like, yeah, and this is the path we take for the people who are high impulse. And I'm like, well, what do you mean by high impulse? And she's like, well, they bought without going through the sales process, which honestly, I tend to do a lot because once I know I want, because I don't buy on the first time usually, unless it's already something I've been looking for, I've budgeted for, I've been looking for a solution to this, and I have the money for it, and I'm prepared and ready to go and implement it right away. I usually don't buy on impulse unless all three of those things fall into place. I've been looking for that kind of a solution. I'm prepared financially to receive it, and I'm prepared with my time and my company to implement it. There's no sense in buying stuff today that you're not going to be able to get around to for a year. I know I made that mistake over and over and over again, okay? Because it's just going to sit there. It's money wasted. It's going to sit there languishing. And at worst, you might ruin the relationship with the person you sold it to you who wants to coach you and wants to mentor you, but you're not ready to roll out. I have ruined some, not ruined because most of these people are very gracious when we realize I'm not going to just buy into things just to say I'm there when I can't fully be present. Okay. So anyway, so I'm sitting down with her and she's walking me through the thing, and I tend to be a no sales process person because I don't want you to sell me into something. If I want it, I want it, and I really don't want to walk through the sales process. I have learned after being trained in sales, I have learned to allow people to take me through the sales process because it makes them feel good and you usually get some pennies out of it. Like I remember being so disappointed when I found out with a company that I'm in, a very big company that I'm with, that if you buy right away, they don't offer you the free evaluations. They don't offer you the free lunch with the founder. They don't offer you any of that stuff. They just take your money and run. But when you go through the sales process and you say, well, I got to think about it, and you hang up and they got to call you back, they offer you the free. I still got to think about it. They call back, they offer you the free assessment. You get all the freebies by playing hard to get. And I was like, really? You should give them to me because I knew what I wanted when I showed up. That's not how sales works. Okay. And so I will play the sales game more now. But at the time, I just like, I don't want to waste my time on all that. You don't need to sell me. And I already know this is what I want. And so they're like walking through the sales thing, the sales funnel. And yeah, these are the people that just bought. So we know that they're impulse buyers. So we know that anything we put in front of them, they'll buy. And I'm like, that's not always true. And I explained to her the reason I bought right away is because I had already been conditioned that this is a decent price point to be able to share the stage with Les Brown and Dr. Fraser. That's why I bought without going through the sales process, because I had already been conditioned that this was a good price point. And when I saw the price point, I missed out on it the previous time with another person. And so I jumped on it with you. And it was very interesting because, it's not something that most people do. But one thing that most people do is they get into a lot of debt and they buy a whole lot of things that they don't need or that they can't. And they're sad about it later on. And I don't want you to be sad about it later on. I want you to get what you want. I want you to get what you need. And I want you to be able to sleep well at night. Okay. So yes, I really recommend that wait a day before you buy. How we say it, like wait a day before you pay, right? Like wait a day. The offer will come back around eventually. And well, no, he says if I don't buy it right now, I'm going to have to pay 4 times as much through his website. Well, you know what? Maybe it's not for you right now. A year from now, he'll come back to town. He'll offer another one of these things, and you'll be better poised to take advantage of the offer anyway. Okay. And so please keep that in mind. All right. Last question for the day or for this session. I thought I had a fourth one. On here. I don't see it. Okay, I must have misunderstood. Maybe it's only 3. Huh. Okay, hang on just a second. I'm going to take a sip of the nasty tea. Mm, there it is. It's Costco. Okay, All right, so I do have two more questions. I'm going to try to make them faster, but you know what? I'm not. Hey, if you're here, I'm here. Okay. So the two questions are, one is going to be how to spend a $40,000 inheritance. Do they need a financial planner? And then the other one is going to be, are buying clubs like Costco worth it? So we're going to talk about that today. Let me go ahead and pull those questions up. Okay, so the next one is, how do I find a financial advisor for a $40,000 inheritance? Okay, so this is an interesting question because in my personal, well, actually, I can't even say that. I am quite educated. I got a certificate. I am not a certified financial planner. Okay, I have to pass the test still, but I have a certificate for financial planning from George Mason University. I have to be careful how you say that. I am not a CFP. I do not, or wait, you can't, it's not even say whatever it is. Yeah, I know. They have a way you're supposed to say it, and I'm not one. Okay. My thing though, if someone dropped $40,000 into your life right now, I'm going to actually recommend, before we do anything with that money, that you spend some time really thinking about what it is you want to get out of life, and what it is the money's for, who it came from, and what was their intention for it. Now granted, their intention for it, once it's yours, only matters in so much as the relationship with them matters. Okay. So if this is someone who has passed away, which an inheritance would suggest that somebody passed away and left you this money. If it's somebody who passed away, then considering their wishes is nice, and it's good to be informed by that, but it's not required, because they're not here to yell at you for not doing what they said. If it's your mama and your daddy, or your sister and your brother, and you're going to have to see them in Thanksgiving and Christmas, you might want to consider what it is they're giving you the money for and what they want you to do with it. Doesn't mean you have to do what they want, but you might consider it, because it could make Christmas really, really awkward if your sister gave you $40,000 for a down payment and you decided to spend it taking your family on a trip to Bali. I mean, I'll come with you. Anyway, the very first thing I'm going to recommend anybody do is get out of debt. Now, if this inheritance came because someone really close to you passed away, I'm going to recommend that you put it aside and leave it alone for 6 months to even a year. Give yourself time to grieve and figure out how to use that money to best honor their memory. Okay. I don't like people to make big changes in the initial months following a big grievous loss. All right. Because we don't always make the best decisions. So divorces, loss of a child, loss of a parent, loss of a job, things like that. I'm a big fan of squirrel away your money. It'll be there later. If you don't give it away, it'll be there later. But I know people who, in their grief, gave away boats and play. Like, I know somebody who I think is just the most dear spirit. She's just the most sweetest person you ever met, and just has a big heart and wants to help people. She gave away her husband's plane, like his plane, his airplane, gave it away. And I was like, but grief makes us do crazy things like that. It doesn't make us do it. It opens us up to doing crazy things like that. Okay. But once you've gotten through a place, or if that money didn't come from someone who has got you all in your feels about the grief, then I recommend that you get out of debt. I really do. I recommend that you get out of debt, and that you use some of that money to, if there's any left, that you use it to save for it. Well, first okay. And I know my battery's about to be low, so I'm going to try to hurry this up. Okay. The very first thing that I would recommend somebody do, if you got a big windfall of money. Now, by big, I mean big. 40K is big to most people, but if you got millions, now we want to talk to a financial advisor for 40K, because I'm going to walk you through what you do with 40K. Even up to 100K, I think unless you already have a lot of assets, you're probably better off just following these baby steps that I'm about to give you. Okay. Because a lot of financial planners don't even really want to talk to you until you have at least like 250, 500,000 or $1 million. Okay. So, or if they do, they're trying to sell you subpar products because they're making all their commission off of selling you something. And so I'm like, no. Okay. So if somebody drops you a big inheritance, you want to make sure you have a fully funded emergency account somewhere. So peel off some of that to make sure you have at least 6 months of savings somewhere. Okay. After you've got your 6 months of savings, make sure you get out of debt. Do them both at the same time. Okay. There's some people who teach, do a little savings first, and then And actually I do most of the time the little savings first and then pay off your debt and the big savings. But if you get a windfall like that, I like you to just go ahead and fund that big savings, because you may never get this opportunity again to fill it so quickly, and then work on knocking out your debt. So I always tailor. So like any advice that I give on the show is not specific financial advice, because specific financial advice is tailored to your actual situation. But in general, I'm going to want you to get out of debt. I'm going to want you to have a sizable savings. And people say, oh, I could be making so much more money in the market. You could, but you could be losing so much more money in the market. So we take those two things out of the equation. We take debt and we take savings. And if there's any investing in ourselves, okay, I hope everybody can hear me. Okay, let's see. It says I'm on there. All right, let me check. Let me just sure. Oh, yep. Okay. So this has happened a couple times now. My laptop is low on battery and it dies before it's supposed to. I don't know what to think about that, but here we are. Okay. So what I was saying is if you had a significant, man, I feel like this is so far away. If you have a significant um, cash infusion, the very first thing I'm going to want you to do is to make sure that you are investing in yourself by paying off debt and setting up your savings account, your 6 month savings account, 3 to 6 months at least. Okay. After that, it's really going to depend on your goals. So if you have a goal to like buy a house or something, then you are going to want, oh, I should keep this on because it's still recording and I can use for the podcast. Okay. So, all right. So if you get that cash infusion, I'm going to want you to get out of debt. I'm going to want you to have a big savings account, 3 to 6 months minimum. Personally, if you had 12 months, that's fine. But at $40,000, that's probably all the money you have. You don't want to put it all in the savings. It's come to you to do some benefit to your life. So, maybe put a third of that in the savings, whatever it takes to get you 3 to 6 months. Okay. And then the next thing that I'm going to want you to do after you've got your savings and you get out of debt is to evaluate your other goals. So maybe you want to save for a down payment on a house, a 20% down payment on a house. Maybe you want to fund kids' college. Maybe you want to start investing. Any of those kinds of things is a great way to go, but it's going to depend on your risk tolerance. It's going to depend on what you want to do. It's going to depend on your goals. Okay. Because if you are somebody who doesn't want a whole lot of risk, like you don't want to take on the ups and downs of the stock market, well, there's other things you're going to want to invest that money in. Now, at $40,000, I'm going to be honest with you. If I run through the checklist of get your savings account, get yourself out of debt, and I start thinking of the next immediate things, like if you don't already have a home saving up for a down payment, well, what about your car? Is your car going to need to be replaced soon? Personally, I'd make sure I had money. If my car was going to need to be replaced in the next 2 or 3 years, I would make sure I had that money in the bank because I don't like to have payments on a car. And once you get used to not having payments on a car, you discover that you can pay off, you can take the money you would have paid towards a car, put that in a savings account, and long before that car have money to buy another car. It's the greatest feeling in the world knowing you're not beholden to a loan company to, try to get your basic transportation needs met, purchasing the house. And so if you really, really, after you've done all that, or maybe you already had done some of that, and you really do want to sit down with somebody about investing, and that's when you might want to bring in somebody who can advise you on where to spend it. But there's a lot of recommendations out there. And personally, if you don't have any other investments, I'm going to recommend a good performing mutual fund, an index fund, or something that's easy peasy, depending on your level of understanding in the market. Now, let's say you get that $40,000 cash infusion, because this person didn't give me any detail. They just said, how do I find a financial advisor? And I'm necessarily think you need to. Now, I should probably answer the question. How do you find a financial advisor? Okay, one way you find a financial advisor, you can go look in the CFP.org, and you can look for yourself somebody with the CFP designation, the Certified Financial Planner designation. Especially looking for somebody who's a fee-only financial planner. They will help advise you on the best types of investments for you. If you already know what kind of investments you like, and you already know your risk tolerance, and you already know how susceptible you are to the ups and downs of the market, then you would look for somebody who can help you invest. Or you could simply open up an account yourself with Fidelity or Chase or Vanguard or any of those big brokerage houses. Most of them have 0 to 0.5% super, super low fee accounts. You can start investing. And again, I'm a big fan of newbies to investing, starting with index funds. An index fund is going to be tied to the market. So as the market goes up and the market goes down, that's the level of performance you can expect from the fund. Now, any company worth its salt is going to take your index fund money and they're going to give you what the market is doing. And if they're doing their job, they're actually making more off of your money than the market is doing. But in order to get you moved into some of those funds, the fees are higher because of the management. So at the at this level, at the $20,000-$40,000 level, I don't think it's really worth it to take on high loads or anything like that. Just get yourself a pattern or get yourself in the market. Another way to, and so that's how you would find somebody, okay? Here's who I wouldn't use. I would not use the financial advisor through your bank. Your bank is not going to have the same range of opportunities and financial products that you're going to find through a full service broker at higher price points, or the bank is not going to do a better job for you, whatever it is you have to pay them, when you participate in what I just said, like opening your own accounts through the big reputable names. You say, oh, well, my bank doesn't charge me. I promise you, your bank is making more money off of your money than you are if you are going through a rep at your bank. They're either selling you into insurance or investment products with high management fees, or they are somehow otherwise getting paid to do that. There's very few out there that I've ever heard of that didn't get some payment on the back end. And there's no need for you to fund that. Put all your money to work for you, okay? If you are somebody who feels like you don't really trust the market, you don't know where the market's going, but they're not making more land and you'd like to invest in real estate, then I recommend you take some time and learn about real estate investing. Maybe even take some of that money and take a course on real estate investing. I mean, you can go to my YouTube channel and probably get as much real estate investment education as a $5,000 to $10,000 course for absolutely nothing. But then when we do our courses, you're more able to participate in them. Or if you're not local here, when you go to somebody else's course, you're more able to participate in them. So take advantage of the free stuff. Just make sure it's quality free stuff. Okay. So, and then also, so I would recommend, those are the two things that I recommend investing in. I recommend investing in the stock market, mutual funds primarily. And then, of course, everybody has their own favorite little companies and stocks and things like that. If you want to do that, But, I'm a big fan of mutual funds and real estate. That's one of my big things. And right now, I'm big into the tax sales and subject to, where you're basically taking on property for very little cost, if any. So, those are the kinds of things I would recommend. But as far as how you would find a financial advisor to help you come up with the absolute best customized case scenario for your situation, I would recommend going to cfp.org and finding somebody who holds the Certified Financial Planner designation. A lot of people out there, because the term fiduciary is real sexy right now. Everybody's trying to call themselves a fiduciary. You got to be careful about that, because they say that, but they're still getting paid by the company who's selling you the products. And you say, oh, well, there's nothing wrong with getting paid a commission by the company who's selling me the products. Well, there is, if it pushes you towards steering your customers into products that aren't good for them. Because that's what happens in a lot of these situations. You get into a product, you get into a financial product, you get into an insurance product that actually isn't good for you as much as it's good for the pockets of the person who sold you into the policy. So that's something you want to watch out for. Okay, last question for today, and that's going to be about buying clubs. Now, I don't have the questions up because my computer died, and I guess I'm just going to have to start plugging it in. I hate to change the setups when I've got my setup in the comfortable room, and then I got my setup in here. This was more comfortable 50 pounds ago. I guess I should just finish losing the weight. But I'll fix that for next time. We won't keep making the same mistake. I think that's like the third time I've made that mistake, and we won't. So I don't have the question in front of me. It was on the computer, but the question was something to the effect of, is it worth it to buy a membership to these bulk buying clubs like Costco and Sam's Club? And I am so excited for the Costco in Weatherford to open up. I've never been excited for something an hour away from me to open up before. It's definitely interesting living in Texas, because somebody was making a comment the other day and I was like, dude, that's Dallas. And we talk about being close to Dallas, but really that's 3 hours away from me. To get up to North Dallas is 3 hours away from me. To get to Fort Worth is like an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on where you're going. Right. And so, everybody thinks Dallas and Fort Worth are right here, but like there's an hour, it's an hour maybe like 2 hours from side to side, but it's an hour between them. I mean, Texas is just big. um, so So I'm very excited about Costco is going to be opening up about an hour away from me, and I hate Weatherford traffic because that's the start of the Metroplex traffic, and it's just bad as all the rest of the Metroplex traffic. But I'm looking forward to that, and so you know, buying in bulk can be a great way to save. And what you have to do as a consumer is you have to evaluate the access to the products that are being sold. You have to with yeah, sorry, let me slow down. The things that you as a consumer have to look at, you have to look at the access to the products. Are the products themselves worth it? There are a lot of bulk buying clubs out there, especially online clubs. They're like, oh, pay $100 a year and you get access to our premium travel club or our premium purchasing club or our premium blah, blah, blah club, our premium baby club. And you think you're going to get a good deal on these things, but actually you get in there and then you find out that these products really aren't very good. They're not very well known. They're not things that you know that you can trust. And then what's worse is they either cost the same or more than what you find in the store. So that is not the case with Costco or Sam's Club, BJ's, and is there another one out there? I think there's another one, but those are the three that come to my mind. That's not the case here, but a lot of these online ones, they're really, in my opinion, kind of scamming people because it's really not that great of a deal. So you want to make sure that the products that you're going to find in that buying club, whether it's online or in person, are products you're actually going to use and that they're priced appropriately and that they're priced appropriately in a way that makes the membership fee valid. So like if I can get a great deal on toilet paper at Sam's Club, but I only go to Sam's Club to buy my toilet paper once a year, unless I'm stocking up on, unless I've got a family of like 10, it's probably not worth the membership fee just to save money on toilet paper. Toilet paper was probably the wrong example because I think we pay at Sam's Club, we buy the Palm box, and that's like 45 rolls of toilet paper and it's like $23. It's a good brand. It's not luxury or anything, but it gets the job done really well. Low lint, that's important. I'm gonna evaluate toilet paper now. But I'm pretty sure that if you bought 45 rolls of toilet paper of that equitable quality in the grocery store, you're probably spending about $100. But still, saving $80 or in this case $77 on toilet paper is still not worth the $150 or whatever it is our membership costs. Okay, so you have to make sure that you're not throwing away money. Like Vistaprint. I love Vistaprint, and now that I'm moving into an office downtown where we're creating our new studio, it's got big windows, and I originally wanted to keep those windows clear so that people could see me as I'm recording the podcast. But I was telling my husband, I was like, these big windows are a great way to advertise. I could go back to doing like we did in the mall, where we had the banners in the mall that told you what the upcoming classes were, what our schedule was, what the next class was, if we had our jam sessions and our Bible studies, whatever we were doing, that's the banner we would set out so that people walking in the mall would know what's going on. And I bought so much stuff off of Vistaprint. I would wait for those sales. Look, they would sell everything in Vistaprint goes on sale on a 6-week cycle. I would wait for the sale on the banners, and then I'd buy all the banners I needed for the next 6 weeks. And so now they have a new club, a new buying club thing where like you get standard discounts on everything all the time. You don't have to wait for the rotation, and then a very low shipping cost, if any, depending on the level that you buy. And I was like, oh, that might be worth it, but it wasn't worth it for the last order. Who knows when I'm going to get this thing built, right? So you want to evaluate that. Are the products any good? Are they things that you're going to use? Are they cost effective? Are they worth the membership fee? Okay. And then the other thing that you want to look at is the buying that you plan to do, is that going to be something that actually helps your family financially, or does it set you back? Because there are a lot of clients that come to me and one spouse is like, yeah, we got this membership and now we're buying all this stuff. And then the other spouse is like, we did not need any of that. And so I gave you the toilet paper example, right? Like we get that box, it's $23. It's got like 45 or so rolls of toilet paper. We're basically saving 70 something dollars by buying in bulk, right?
people who cannot afford to buy in bulk waste money that they can't even really control because they don't have enough money to buy in bulk. They waste money because they have to buy smaller packages, or they have to buy the higher price versions that are local instead of being able to travel and get the better deals. Okay. So when you can buy in bulk things that you're going to buy anyway, it's absolutely a great savings. Another thing that we save a lot on is we get our paper towels that it comes with 15 mega rolls with the select a size. So you can have the small ones or the big ones or the really big ones. You can select a size, and they're like mega rolls, and they're equitable to any of the top brands that are like $5 a roll in the grocery store. So instead of paying $75 for all those, we're only paying $17.50 or whatever it is. Let's round it up to 20. Still saving $55. Now you say, well, that's not really a whole lot in the big scheme of things, but every little thing adds up. But here's where bulk buying clubs are a problem. I already mentioned, but just because I see we have new people coming on, and just for the sake of those who are also listening on the podcast, we want to make sure that some of these online, especially these online clubs, you pay a fee to get in there. The only person really benefiting is the person you paid the fee to, because the products are lackluster. And then this is a new one that people are calling it now. They're calling it curated. I've curated this. I have found you this deal. I have found you that deal. And basically what they have done is they have found something on Amazon that costs $5, and they're selling it to you for $10, and they've never even actually tried it. They don't know if it's good quality or anything, but but you paid to be in their online bulk buying club, and they're selling you this line that by all of us buying together, we can get the prices down, but you can find it yourself cheaper. Okay. So again, that's a certain kind of thing. You want to make sure that the product is actually going to be something you use. You're going to want to make sure it's a brand you can trust, that the products that they're giving you are brands you can trust. You want to make sure that the membership fee is in line with your budget, and it's the savings you will get are more than the membership fee that you'll pay. And not just the membership fee, the extra gas and the time. Like this Costco is opening up an hour from us. So it's not just go to Costco. That's $50 worth of gas. No, it's not $50 worth of gas, because we would probably not take my husband's truck. But it's still $25 worth of gas. Right? So you gotta think about those things when you are short on cash, because buying in bulk can absolutely save you a lot of money if you do it the right way. Okay. And so what you don't want to do, the last one that I'm going to give you on this about buying in bulk, actually there's two more I'm going to give you, but one does not apply to these clubs. Okay. The last one for these clubs is, don't go in there spending money on all this stuff that you don't need. Because you get in there and you're like, oh my goodness, I can get this big 6-pack of lasagnas, and it's just you. Like, when are you going to eat all of that? I can get this big colossal thing of yogurt. When are you going to eat all that? That's $20 down the drain, because you're going to eat like 2 cups and be tired of it. Okay. You go into the, I made the mistake of doing this one time. I bought a big old thing of socks because I like to make things easy. Okay. And I like to make things easy for me and for my family. And so I have discovered as a mom, it's really, really easy if your child has black socks and white socks. Worked fine with my oldest, because my oldest did not care about the color of his socks. Now, he wanted his outfits to match, and he wanted the style. If all the boys were wearing muscle shirts, he wanted to wear muscle shirts. If they were all wearing tank tops, he wanted tank tops. If they were all wearing hoodies, he wanted hoodies. But he didn't care about the color of his socks. So he got black socks for church. He got white socks for everything else. And then we would just mix them. And you know what? They're all the same. So it's easy to just mix and match, right? Enter my little one. I've done bought this big old bulk thing of socks, and my little one wants his socks to match. So he wants the colors. Now he's starting to get out of that. I might be able to start being cheap on his socks, but I don't know yet. But he wants the colors. Now, back in the day as a parent, I'd have been like, you get what you're given. You get what you get. You don't throw a fit, right? But I know that living with me is not the easiest thing in the world. And I know that being my kid is not the easiest thing in the world. So if matching socks makes him happy, I'm gonna let him have some matching socks, right? But don't buy stuff just to buy it, and then you get it home and you're like, I can't use it. I'll be honest, I steady taking stuff to the donation pile. not the donation pile. We have a donation pile in our garage. And I'm steady taking stuff to the rescue. I'm steady taking stuff to Hope. I'm going to start taking stuff down to the Christian Women's Ministry down in Dublin. Now that I know about it, like I'm constantly taking stuff out of this house. And you know whose fault most of it is? Most of it is me buying stuff we didn't need. Because, oh, that's cute. Oh, this is great. Or I didn't research it fully. I know you're like, you teach this stuff and you fall into that. Yes, I do. And sometimes, I will say, now let me just caveat that sometimes I'll buy something and I have every intention of it being a good fit for our house. And I'll get it home and I'll be like, why did I get this? This is not for us. And then the Spirit will tell me that's not for you. That's for he'll tell me it's for a specific person and I will deliver it to that person, or he'll tell me that's for somebody else through whatever giving mechanism, and I will give it in the pile to that agency or whatever. So sometimes that happens too. But you don't want to just buy, you don't want, you got this much freezer, but you come home with like 20 frozen pizzas. And you don't need to eat that much pizza. You're not going to eat that much pizza. We've got stuff in the freezer. Like I have started digging in that deep freeze and making sure we eat stuff that's been in there for over a year. It's like, okay, we need to eat the food. And we're a family of 4 that's fairly busy. So, well, 3 now. Miss my big boy, my young man. But, so you just want to watch out for that. Now, one thing I do want to say on buying in bulk that has nothing to do with the online, it has nothing to do with the bulk retailers like Costco or Sam's Club, because I love them. We have the Sam's Club membership. We're going to get the Costco. When I lived in a place that BJ's was the one that was nearest to us, that's what we got. But we have a friend here now who drives to Benbrook, I think it is, that's like an hour and a half away to 2 hours away to go to the Costco. And I think it's in Benbrook. It might be in Dallas. It might be on the edge of Dallas. But she goes there. Sometimes we give her money and she brings us back groceries, So I can't wait for this Costco to be open. But just buying in bulk in general, when you go to the grocery store, make sure you are comparing the prices. I have begun to notice a lot of grocery stores now are selling the small package version of something for a less price per ounce than the bigger package. So especially your cereals. So, they have the regular cereal, then they have the family size, they have the giant size, and now they have the new mega size. Well, if you look very carefully at the price per ounce, you'll find that in a lot of stores, the mega size is actually costing more per ounce than the family size or the giant size. And I've mentioned that a couple times now to several different retailers. And what they have told me is, well, yeah, we know, but people don't pay attention to the prices. And so this is how we make some money. And one of those places where I had this conversation was one of the bases I was assigned at was the commissary. Like the commissary, when I first came into the Air Force, the commissary was supposed to be like, I think it was like 17% or 15% over the cost of the wholesale cost of whatever was sold there. Like they had a markup that they had was simply for, management. And then they introduced the 5% surcharge on top of that. So it's like a tax, but it's not really a tax, but it is a tax. And that was to help improvements and things like that weren't budgeted for by Congress, whatever. And so, then when I found that out, I was like, really? He's like, yeah, we don't make a lot of money. So if we can find a way to sneak some more money out of people, we'll take it. And I'm just like, you're telling me this and I'm in uniform, but I knew he knew I couldn't do anything about it. So just pay attention to those things, pay attention to those things. In fact, let me give you another one, because now I'm on a roll with the grocery bill. Okay. There is a place that we used to frequent, and we used to go and get our meats and get our fish and all that stuff. And it was always fun. I mean, it was overpriced, but it was just fun for the experience. Like we're getting our fishmonger to cut our fish for us, and we're getting the butcher to slice our steaks just the way we want. I mean, we just felt so bougie, like we arrived, right? And so one day I noticed there are some prepackaged salmon sitting in the case. And I look at it and I'm like, this costs twice as much as the salmon that the guy is cutting for me to make dinner with. And so I asked the guy, I was like, what is so special about this salmon? And he leans at me, he says, that salmon is no better than what I'm giving you. In fact, that salmon is older than what I'm giving you. And I'm like, well, then why is it priced so high? And he said, it's called perceived value. He said people in the swanky Whole Foods and the other grocery stores, they are looking for the prepackaged salmon and they are looking for it around these price points. So when they come in here, if they don't see it like this and at these price points, they don't perceive that we have enough value and they don't buy. But because it's there and because it's what they're accustomed to, they put it in their cart without even thinking about it. And I'm like, well, I think about it because salmon is pricey. Salmon's at a fairly low price than what it was a couple years ago, and it's still like $30 of salmon to feed my family to their liking. I mean, it's not cheap. So to come in a little pack for $20 a pack, like, come on now. But yeah, he said when they started doing that, their sales rose way up, even though the salmon in the grocery case that he was cutting for me was a way better value. So when it comes to saving money in the grocery store, it's not just about the old tried and true shop on the outside for the healthiest, most cost effective. It's not always about shopping for generics, especially if you're like me and some of them generic products don't sit well with you. Like I want to know why Freedom's Choice butter in the commissary, which I don't shop in the commissary anymore because I'm too far away from it. If I'm at a base, I will, but it's not worth the drive. Back in the day, you would always find retirees in the commissary who drove like 2 hours, 3 hours to get there, and they stock up on their other groceries. It's not even worth that drive anymore in this area. But why does the Freedom's Choice butter, which butter is normally made out of cream and sometimes salt, why does the Freedom's Choice butter got to add natural flavorings? I'm sorry, butter is cream and salt. What kind of flavor? What is wrong with your butter and your salt that you got to add flavorings to it? Okay. So, all that's generic is not always better. And I say that as somebody who does not like to waste money on groceries. I like to spend the least amount on groceries that I can to accomplish what I want. Of course, a lot of what I want is eating well. So we do spend a lot of money on groceries, but I don't want to waste it. You know what I mean? Because every little bit adds up. And so you want to make sure that you are shopping in ways that are going to benefit you and that you're paying attention to what you're paying. If you live in a place like DC, I'm not going to tell you to shop all the loss leaders and go around from store to store to store. But I remember living in some places where I would get pork at this store and I would get beef at that store and I would get this here because their loss leaders were different every week. And by shopping the loss leaders, I could get what I needed at the most efficient cost. When you're $800,000 in debt, hey, I'm going to do that. And now for those of you who don't, let me pause for just a second. For those of you who don't know what a loss leader is, a loss leader is when you have something that's low price and the company is actually losing money on that in order to sell it to you at a low price. So we don't get them here. I don't know if bigger markets still do, but you used to get the magazines in the mail from each of the grocery stores, and like Kroger would have this, and Wegmans would have that, and Publix would have this, and Walmart would have that, and they'd have all their different things on sale. When I was in Ohio, it was Myers. They would have all their different things on sale, and I used to put them all out and be like, okay, pork chops are on sale here. We're gonna have pork chops Monday night. Ground beef is on sale here. We're going to do meatloaf and we're going to do burgers. And this is on sale and that's how I would craft my meal plan. And then I would go to each of those stores. Now, when I lived in DC, we weren't doing all that because it'd take you half an hour to get out of the Walmart parking lot, period. So they had captive audiences. You weren't driving all around. Like the one off of Branch Avenue had a Safeway and a Lowe's and a office thingy and a Walmart all in the same shopping parking lot. But once you got out of the store and into your car to leave, it was half an hour to get out of the conclave, to get onto the road till you can go home, right? So if I couldn't get it all done in there, it won't get done, all right? But if you're in a market where you have loss leaders and you have different stores with different loss leaders, you could save a significant amount of money, especially in these tough economic times, just by shopping what's on sale. Now, the loss leader, they bring you into the store at a super low price on something. They know that they're going to lose money on it, but what they are counting on is that when you come in to buy your $3 eggs, they are counting on you not leaving to go get your meat somewhere else, because most of us do not want to make multiple trips. So they're going to lure you in with the $3 eggs, and then they're going to charge you twice on the meats. They're going to lure you in with the $3 pork chops, the $3 per pound pork chops, but then they're going to charge you $12 for the eggs. You see how that works? That's why it's called a loss leader. It's a loss, but it brings people in. So ultimately, it's a win for the store. Okay. So if you live in a market where you can kind of shop all the loss leaders for that business or that town and build your budget that way, that'll help you be very much more economical. And then the other thing for saving, I've got to find the videos. I've got some on the YouTube channel, making multiple meals out of something. So like when we have a meal where we're making roast, and y'all, I will spend money on a good roast. Oh my goodness, that prime one roast, it costs almost twice as much as the other roast, but it is so good. And so we have the roast, and then maybe the next day we will do like Philly cheesesteaks or something out of it. And then if there's any roast left the next day, I can grind that up and we can use it for chili. We can use it for spaghetti sauce. We can use it for all kinds of things. And that way you're taking one main chunk of meat and you are making it last for 3 different meals. And you're making your meal planning around something so that you are being as economical as possible with it. And people say, well, you can't save your way into wealth. Well, I tell you what, you can't save your way into wealth, but you can sure enough spend your way into poverty. So if you can save a little bit of money here and there on different things, then that'll actually serve you very well. Okay. I am going to check really quick and see if I don't see any comments. Okay. I don't see any question comments. So I think we're going to wrap it up here. But if you have a question while I am thinking about my announcements, go ahead and put it in the chat real quick. I'm not going to be able to pull up Ask JJC from here. So if you ask the question in that, or if you ask the question on Ladies of Wealth /ask, then I'm not going to be able to pull that up for you. Okay. So we'll have to catch it next week. But go ahead and put your stuff in there. And if I can just do a plug, please check out the Ladies of Wealth website. I'm so excited about our new website. And I love the fact that you can actually leave me a voicemail. And I can have, when we do the podcast, I can answer your question with your voice on the voicemail. I think it's so exciting. And I just can't wait for more of you to try it. Okay. Announcements. We are having our Presidential Lifetime Awards ceremony March 8th, International Women's Day in Dallas, Texas. We are also, we are back on for Juneteenth. We lost our venue because the cities decided to renovate, and then everybody's been afraid to say or do anything because of the new administration coming in. Nobody's been wanting to be in committal, but we're finally getting some people who are willing to talk with us about venues. So we're going to, we are having an event one way or another in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We're going to be having our Juneteenth Legacy Conference. We may or may not be doing our ladies retreat in May. So those of you who know, I've been the, and I'm just giving you time to drop your questions in the chat. So I'm not going to answer any more questions unless somebody puts a question in the chat. Okay. So I'm kind of just talking right now and just giving announcements. But for many of you, you know that I have been for the last 4 years, the director of Elect Ladies Department for the Southwest jurisdiction. So Oklahoma, New Mexico, Texas, for a little while when we were in Louisiana, included Louisiana as well, Northwest Louisiana. But those churches, the Elect Ladies Department. And so we had our local Elect Ladies retreats, and then we also had our jurisdictional Elect Ladies conferences. And then last year we did a retreat in Albuquerque, which was so much fun. The year before that, we did a local one in College Station, which was also so much fun. But that mantle of the bigger group will be passed to somebody else. And so I'm going to start hosting local retreats again. Okay. It's kind of awkward to host local retreats when you really need to care for a lot of other people at the same time, and it runs your time really thin. So we're going to be doing our local retreats again, depending on when they do stuff. We used to do them in May. So we will probably go back to May. We'll probably go back to that, but we will probably not do Healing My Sisters this year. We will probably not do the Reconnect with Myself retreat this year, 2025, but we will probably pick those back up in 2026. Okay. But we will be doing Juneteenth Legacy. And then later, and in March. Oh, I forgot. Oh my goodness. I need to advertise this. March whatever the Thursday is of the week of spring break, 20th or 21st, whatever that Thursday is, we will be in Tampa for the Women's Wealth Mastermind. I'm so excited. We're finally going to have it. The goal was to do a neat location, a fun location every quarter. It hasn't worked out that way. And finally, we've got Tampa. We've got some other things set up for the rest of the year. I'm so excited. If you are in the Tampa area, or if you are a speaker who can get down there to Tampa for that day, I encourage you to get on my list so you'll be the first to know when we put out that call for speakers, which should be going out as soon as I figure out more details for Juneteenth. Okay, I have talked and talked and talked and talked. I don't see any new comments, so we're going to go ahead and close it off for today. I want to appreciate y'all for being here. If you are listening as part of the Ladies of Wealth podcast, again, we highly, highly recommend that you come on out Thursday nights, 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern, so that you can actually come ask your questions live or hear us have these conversations live that feed into the podcast. So we do interviews for the podcast, and we do these kinds of me answering questions or me teaching something for the podcast. And so with all of those things that are live are all done Thursday nights. And we would love, love, love to have you join us. It's always more fun when people are on, when people are asking questions and participating. It's always much more fun for me, which makes it more fun for you. All right, everybody, that's all I got for you today. Y'all take care and be blessed.